welcome to the Personal Injury Law Show. This show talks about everything current in the law of personal injuries and also obviously of importance to you, the viewer. My name's Tony Carbone. I'm a personal injury lawyer of 30 years experience. With me tonight I've got Don Maffia, partner in the law firm in Transport Accidents. Good evening, Don.
Good evening, Tony. Good evening, viewers.
And the effervescent Vivian Ryan, Director and Ambassador of Bully Zero. Now, you're at Gravia Media as a Director, Viv, but also an Ambassador of Bully Zero, which is pretty big.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for Bully Zero, which is what our show is all about today. So thank you very much for having me on board.
Tonight, viewers are going to have a very special episode on cyberbullying, and also we're going to be talking to Amy Cleland, who's the sister of Jessica Cleland, who tragically took her life on the 19th of April, which was Easter Saturday. Now, Don, this issue about bullying, cyberbullying in particular, it's something that no one's really wrapped their head around yet. The government hasn't really tackled it properly. There's laws out there after Brodie's death, Brodie Penlock.
Well, that's right, Tony. I mean, Brodie's law, it's called Brodie's law, where people who engage in that bullying can be charged criminally.
Yes.
And that happened in a workplace scenario. But we're seeing this, well, I'll call it an epidemic of where it's online communications which is being used to bully other people.
Yes.
And it is bullying getting to extent where when you text messages and all those things, you can't see the emotions, whereas face-to-face you can, whereas online bullying you can't.
Well, and just on that point, Viv, you can't escape it. That's the real problem.
No, I mean, look, we often talk about this, obviously, since being quite heavily involved with the charity organisation Bully Zero. You know, we talk amongst ourselves, and obviously all of us on some level growing up have been subjected to some form of bullying. I certainly know growing up at primary school, there was a group of girls that used to encircle me and, you know, with my girlfriend and I while we're having lunch. And the worst thing that actually happened to me was that my hair was pulled and I went home with one pigtail up and the other one down, and my lunch had been stolen. And, you know, you kind of felt in the minority and it didn't make you feel good. But I went home to the sanctuary of my house. Exactly. And, you know, it is an epidemic, the social platforms that people can be accessed 24/7. And I know the behaviours, you know, of the youth of today. They often sleep with their phone under their pillow. And, you know, I just think it's, as ambassadors, but also as parents, as people in the community, the awareness needs to be raised and ramifications need to be sought.
Exactly. Don, you raised the issue about criminal charges in Brodie Penlock's case. Now, in Jessica Cleland's case, nothing was done. There was a coroner's investigation, which seemed pretty scant. I mean, it didn't look like it went into really great detail. And it's like the police force don't really know what to do.
Well, the coroner's findings was that Jessica's death was that the social media and other communication technologies played in her life. So she was exposed to that bullying potentially up to 24 hours a day.
Yes.
And like we've said, just couldn't get away from it. There was no safe, sanctioned, safe house for her. And even though the coroner made those findings, the police are yet, and haven't, inquired as to the two people who precipitated the bullying.
Yes.
And it just looks like it's just been closed.
Viv, do we need a special body of people set up to really tackle this problem?
Absolutely, we do.
Just recently, the federal government announced that they're going to devote $100 million to cyberbullying. And the key to it now, and I'm going to ask Amy this, how are they going to use that money? You know what I mean?
Well, I think obviously we've talked in the past about education is key, you know, being made aware of what is right and what is wrong. At the same time, not to denigrate these actions at all because, you know, it's horrendous. But to what extent can we sue for compensation for children? I mean, some children are as young, you know, under 10 that are bullying children. So what sort of ramifications can we seek? Is it you suing the parents? I mean, what do we do in these circumstances?
I'm not even sure that suing them for compensation is the issue here. For me personally, it's more a case of making it a criminal offence, which it's supposed to be, to stop the actions from occurring, Don.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's really a case of there's going to be consequences if you can conduct this sort of behaviour, and you're going to pay the price for doing what you've done to another person.
Yeah. And look, I think in answer to Viv's question, I mean, we're yet to see Viv. And it's an area that's, because of the evolution of this online bullying, it's still yet to be seen the full ramification legally for that.
So I guess what we can do is look a little bit to the criminal code.
Yeah,
and
I
obviously,
think that's the approach.
Yeah, and obviously, so just to educate some of the audience who aren't aware, but let's talk through manslaughter charges or attempted murder charges that are that people who are conducting them are under the age of 16. What happens to those people under the code at the moment?
Viv, that's a very interesting point because Jane Cleland, the mother, has raised it and said if it was culpable driving, it doesn't matter if it was deliberate or not, you're going to go to jail. You know what I mean? Up to 14 years. But in the sad case of Jessica, whether they deliberately did what they did and whether they turned their mind to the fact that she might commit suicide, the mum's saying it's irrelevant because, you know, just like a culpable driving charge done, you know, you don't mean to kill anyone on the road, but you're still going to jail.
I think, again, answer to Viv's question, it's pretty difficult when we talk about the minors. When it's adults and this was engaged by an adult and they are criminally charged and prosecuted and sentenced, there are avenues of compensation available under the Sentencing Act in Victoria which can give compensation. There's a recent article where if you recall, the Sydney Gambino and the Farquharson, where Dad drove a vehicle into the car and killed the 3 kids.
Well, that's just been resolved now.
Yeah, well, she made a Sentencing Act application and got some compensation for pain and suffering. So where there are criminal charges, there are avenues to get compensation directly from that person.
But the difference between that case that you've just referred to now is that there was an adult at the helm. I mean, this adult...
These are 18, 19-year-olds. Yeah. They're adults.
Just claims that they were 18, 19. But I understand, Viv, and look, it's very hard. I mean, do you have the parents? What knowledge? Where does it stop? And I don't know. I don't think we have seen the full extent of it. I mean, even with, if it is a minor, can they still be criminally prosecuted under Brodie's law?
Can you tell us a little bit more about the facts of Brodie's Law for those people who aren't aware of what happened?
Brodie's Law was, again, it was just that there was bullying in a workplace scenario, and following that, the state legislature introduced what they call now Brodie's Law, where people can be criminally prosecuted for bullying. So it's a criminal act.
Just within the workplace, or is it something
that was more directed towards the workplace. But the real issue we're dealing with today is cyberbullying, social media, your Facebook and Snapchat and all this.
Well, bullying within the community.
Correct.
And Don, in Brodie's Law, quite a few people were convicted, but they only got fines. I mean, there was no jail terms.
Well, that's it. And look, this is where the community is now reacting to all this. It's reactive, shouldn't be reactive, we should be proactive. And they introduced a law after the fact has happened. I mean, this should be, like you said, Tony, education, getting proactive to try and prevent this happening, and particularly now with the social platforms that we have, your Facebook, Snapchat, you just can't get away from it.
No, you can't. Viv, with the Bully Zero Foundation, of which I'm the Deputy Chair and you're an Ambassador, the CEO goes around to all the different schools and talks about the problems of cyberbullying and the effects it has on the community. Now, it's amazing how a foundation has to do that. It's only been now recently that the federal government said we're going to put some money towards it. Do you find it extraordinary in this day and age that we just don't turn our mind to mental health and just community standards?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and I do think we need to endorse these organisations as we do wherever we can. One of the great things that Bully Zero are doing next year is they've teamed up with Event Steps, who are an events management company, under the guise of La Dolce Italia, and they're bringing out Alec Baldwin in February of next year in conjunction with Bully Zero to raise awareness and to raise money for this organisation. So I certainly suggest you get behind that and come on down. It's happening at Crown Palladium at the end of February, so check out the website for further details.
We've got to get our sponsors break. Don, thanks for coming on board. After the break, viewers, we've got Amy Cleland, the sister of Jessica, to talk to us about her sister and the tragic events leading up to her death. show, as I said before the break, we're very, very fortunate to have Amy Cleland, the sister of Jessica Cleland. Good evening, Amy.
Hi, how you going?
She's come on the show to just enlighten us a bit about what happened to her sister. And Viv, it's an incredibly delicate and touchy subject.
Yeah,
look,
it is.
Cyberbullying and...
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, this show, of its own is difficult for both Tony and I, and no doubt yourself, Amy. So we thank you so much for coming on board. And I know that you met Tony at a Bully Zero charity function recently where your father gave a very heartfelt story around the circumstances surrounding your sister's departure of this world. And so thank you so much for coming and raising awareness.
Amy, can we just start off by saying, what do you do?
Well, for me, I've actually just started a new job, just working part-time, doing remedial massage. And so just as well as trying to complete my degree, which is a Bachelor of Health Science, specialising in clinical myotherapy. I also ride horses, so I also do some show jumping to sort of, I suppose that's my outlet. Okay. With everything else, that's sort of gone crazy in my life, the horses is something that has brought me
a nice calming effect.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about Jess. She was only 18 years of age.
Yeah.
Happy-go-lucky girl.
Yeah, very happy. Jess was, I suppose you could say, I don't want to use the word typical, but I suppose that's one we sort of all tend to use nowadays. She was always very bright, very smiled a lot, laughed a lot, always with the jokes, very, very quick-witted, and if you left your phone lying around, you'd have 500 selfies on there, but she wasn't someone that you could actually ever pick that something was actually going on.
She was good at covering things up.
Very good at covering things up, and it's sort of, with that, it's actually taught me to actually from this experience is actually looking at people and actually thinking, are you just hiding behind that smile? Are you, are you actually okay? Just being more aware of that sort of thing. I worked with her day in and day out. I lived with her, even her closest friends didn't even realise that she was suffering. Yeah.
Viv, we've both spoken to Mum and Dad, right? And it's an incredibly sad situation because, they've been lobbying to get some action and to have a proper police investigation. Mm-hmm. And, the two boys that were involved, not boys, they're 18-year-old, they're not kids, right? Nothing's happened. Mm. Do you find that extraordinary?
I do, I really do. And I think maybe, Amy, if you can enlighten us as to the circumstances that Tony's talking about that, Jess was involved in last year.
Well, the Friday night before Jess actually passed away, unbeknown to us, unbeknown to, I suppose, my family and her friends, she was actually being cyberbullied by two people that were meant to be her friends. With that, she, I suppose, as I think you guys have spoken about before, is that because it was on the mobile phone, it was on Facebook, she could just keep rereading over everything that had happened, every bad thing that they'd said about her. And then
so were those people she was at school with, or they were just friends in her circle?
No, they were two people that she'd actually gone to school with, and one of which was closer than the other, but that's neither here nor there now.
Viv, can I just say this? It's amazing how, Amy says that Jessica was very good at keeping things to herself. That's probably true of a lot of people.
We were just talking off camera that the social media environment that my children, your children are being brought up in is a really warped perception of what you're wanting to project. I mean, nobody really takes Facebook photographs or Instagram photographs or Snapchats of things that are fairly benign. A lot of my friends would say, oh, geez, you've got such a charmed life and you're always doing something fun. And well, because I'm not going to exactly sit there and post a photograph of me cleaning a toilet.
No,
because it's really got, although it might have some interest if you write the right caption. But so I think the thing is, what we're dealing with at the moment in this environment and community that we're living in is a misperception, and there's no way for people to tell unless you're sort of offline and your quietest moments where you're confiding in people around you, and even then
A lot of people do keep things to themselves.
They do.
Amy, I find that, it's hard for people to really understand. You and your sister were very close.
Yeah.
And you said because on the outside she showed a very positive demeanour,
Yeah.
but on the inside no one really knew what was going on.
Yeah.
That's scary. It's a very, very scary proposition
Yeah.
for people to think, geez, I know this person but I really don't know them that well.
Yeah. And I guess like from that as well, like, choosing your words, what you actually say to someone, like what you might think is,
Appropriate.
appropriate, might not be to that person. It might actually come across to them as a negative aspect. They might think that you're having a go at them, even though, you've only been innocent. And
It's probably, Viv, education might be the answer to this because, very few people know about Brady's Law, even though that's sort of becoming more and more publicised. Yeah. Do you think at school, because I grew up in an environment where it was pretty, I'd call it violent back in those days. Do you think that it should be part of the curriculum that how to deal with each other, communication and also just behaviour in general?
100%. I'm a huge advocate for what Bully Zero are doing in the community. They go around to every single school that will have them to highlight these issues of what's okay, what's not okay, have some consideration around how that's going to make someone else feel. I'm also a huge advocate in teaching children how to strengthen their minds and to solidify their own esteem.
Yes.
So teaching people how to deal with challenging environments, and this is by no regard, disrespecting your sister at all, but I just think that there is a mental toughness that doesn't exist in the way in which we bring up our children today because we do operate in such a superficial environment that is all online, that is misperceived. So I do believe that the school curriculum, there is massive scope for not only education in and around interaction with others, hence bullying, but also in teaching people how to have, more mental toughness and communication and
I
avenues.
think that lacks in our system.
Absolutely.
And you see it even with the students coming through, young lawyers and that. I always find that their communication skills are very poor in the early days. And they sort of build them up over time, which I think they should have them before they get to the workplace. Viewers, we've got to go to a sponsors break. After the break, we'll pick up the story with Amy and Vivian Ryan. Viewers, welcome back to the show. We're very fortunate to have Amy Cleland and Vivian Ryan tonight.
Hey.
Amy, can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Your sister was hounded by two former students or a couple of guys that went to school with her.
Yeah.
What would you have seen happen in terms of consequences?
In terms of consequences, like the bullies, I was just talking before off camera that the bullies, we still see them walking down the street with their heads held high. They don't seem to have any sort of remorse or guilt regarding what they said or what they did. They still think that what they said wasn't hurtful towards her, even though we've got a coroner's report to state that, yes, they did, in fact, cause, the events. So I suppose for me, they need to be held accountable. They need to, something needs to happen. These boys need to, be used, I suppose, as an example that, we're not going to allow this in our society, that, you're not going to get away with bullying someone to them.
It's a case of be wary of what you say because it might have implications on someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Viv, in Brady's Law, that sort of defines how you can conduct yourself in a workplace. Obviously, there's been no case to deal with cyberbullying, the extension of that law, right? Now, what Amy's saying is, okay, if they knew there'd be consequences, their behaviour might change.
You would imagine so. I think if we can continue on the plight of foundations like Bully Zero that are going into schools, then, raising awareness in terms of not only physical ramifications for individuals, but also then perhaps issuing of fines. Maybe money might speak more, maybe jail time might speak more. But as you were saying before, Amy, that there are schools that have said no to having foundations like Bully Zero come into their school because
they don't have a bullying
They're in denial.
problem.
They're in denial, aren't they?
Yeah,
Really,
they're in
that's what it
denial.
is. Yeah. Look, I had a situation, just so that you know, last year where a young girl was getting bullied at her school by a group of 4 girls. I wrote a letter to the principal and said, this is what's going on. If you don't put a stop to it, we'll sue the school if anything flows from that. Believe it or not, Viv and Amy, what happened was they sat them down, they spoke to them, and the bullying just stopped. And her life's just improved.
It's an issue. It's an issue because as we were talking off camera before, I mean, you hear it, I hear it quite a lot amongst my friendship and family circles where I have, you know, young boys at school who are being bullied, and it's a difficult situation for parents to be in because if they intervene, it can also be more harmful than good if the teachers and the education system doesn't actually handle it in the right way.
Yes.
And oftentimes parents are forced to take their children out of the school and move them into another school, and maybe it's going to be an endless cycle, but at the end of the day, I also think that educators need to be held accountable as well.
Yeah, they can't just be having a blindfold on.
No,
and that's sort of how we're sort of looking at it, you know.
I mean, the family, mum, dad, yourself, I mean, this is with you all the time.
Yeah,
you know,
it never goes away.
No, you constantly, Jessica's on your mind all the time, like.
All the time.
That goes without doubt, is that correct?
All the time, like there's not a day that goes by that we don't think about it or miss her at all. Even just this morning, like I had a check on Facebook and a picture popped up of, because they've got the 3 years ago or whatever.
Time hop.
Yeah, and it was a picture of Jess and just doing something really silly, jumping in the air, but it just made me think, you know, like I don't get to do that again. Like I don't get to see her again. Like, you know, like I've now been cut off, I suppose, from having memories like that ever again with my sister. And that hurts. And even, you know, walking down the street and seeing sisters together or even families, that hurts a lot because I don't have that anymore.
Viv, the family's ongoing suffering, what I think should happen is that there should be criminal consequences, that's my view, and also civil, where lawyers can take proceedings, sue the perpetrators for the pain and suffering the family's going through, and, you know, these judgments hang over there for 15 years. Do you agree with that? Or?
Agree, and I think, you know, Tony, for us, I think we as legal practitioners need to be there in order to assist in any way, shape or form that we can, even if it's, you know, in terms of offering as much legal advice for those people who are in similar circumstances or the family who are left behind, the people who are at the hands of bullying perpetrators, whether in the community, in the workplace, wherever that might be. I still feel that the onus rests on us to assist them with whatever legal context we have available to us right now, and to give, you know, people like Newiki Carbone lawyers a call on 1300 injured, just some advice.
Yep, of course.
Can I say something there? Just as well, like with the impact that it had on me especially and my family, like we couldn't work or we still struggle to actually live a normal life. Like we're never going to get that back either. And you know, like that's one thing we have struggled with then is, you know, like what happens with the bills then? Like the bills still keep coming in, but we're mentally now struggling because of it all.
Amy,
Peace.
can I say, there's counselling out there these days. Bully Zero's got a 24-hour hotline to assist people in similar situations to Jessica.
Yeah.
If they get hounded, they ring up and there's someone there that can give advice on how to best tackle it. And in fact, in many circumstances, someone's actually gone out there to see the person, sit them down and, you know, get them in touch with counsellors, lawyers, and in some instances, the police.
Yeah.
They're very good networks to have around you, don't you think?
Yeah, extremely good. You know, like that's the thing, you know, like sometimes these people, they just need one person to talk to. They need that one person that they can say, look, I'm struggling, like I'm being bullied, like help, you know. And, you know, Bully Zero being able to
Be there.
Be there, yeah. You know, like that's giving them an opportunity and, you know, hopefully stopping what happened to our family.
Viv, one of the problems is a lot of people, especially the people that are being bullied, perceive it as a sign of weakness to actually say anything to anyone. So that's half the problem, isn't it?
It is, and again, it comes back to education. It comes back to having open forums, and maybe it is the open forums in the online sphere where people feel it is okay to share when they're not feeling, you know, 100%, and to see it not as a weakness. It's a sign of humanity. It's a, you know, we as humans are going to have our ups, we're going to have our downs, but you know, together and through open communication and knowing that it is okay to feel this way and that it is temporary, that, you know, hopefully we can see something being done where we can turn this around. I mean, Amy, what would you like to see happen?
For me, I suppose, again, you know, like they need to be held responsible. They need to be held responsible for their actions, you know. Like it's been spoken that, you know, like if you accidentally hit someone with a car, like you're going to go to jail. Like it's the same thing, you know. Well, kind of the same thing,
It's
like
simple.
because, you know, bullying is on purpose and it is aimed at that person. Like how can they not be?
Well, it's so criminally
Accountable.
reckless
Yeah.
or criminally negligent that
Yeah.
they deserve to be punished, don't
Yeah,
they?
exactly.
Look, Amy, I thank you so much for coming on board.
Yeah.
And Amy, just keep pushing. I know there's going to be changes going through so that, you know, at least Jessica's life's not in vain.
No, that's exactly
and
right.
There's a legacy there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's people like you and your family and organisations that are here to help educate the community, to help give it a voice and give teenagers and people of all ages. I mean, it's not just in, you know, teenage years, as we were talking before, it's middle-aged men, it's middle-aged women who feel that there is no avenue and there's no recourse, but there certainly is. And, you know, if I can give a plug to Bully Zero again and their charity night that they're doing in conjunction with La Dolce Italia next year, please come along in February to support this wonderful, you know, cause. Obviously, it's more than just a cause or a charity or foundation. I think it's really, it's a
It's looking after
necessary
your
movement.
kids.
Yeah,
Looking after your kids, isn't that
yeah,
right?
100%.
Viv, thanks for coming on board.
Thank
Amy,
you.
I really thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Viewers, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for future episodes. Go to our past episodes, go to our social media platforms, and please remember to stay safe.